Welcome to the Ripples of Resilience podcast. We are so excited to be gathering this week and sharing what is alive for us. A big part of transitioning from Degreased into Ripples is really expanding into so much of the inner wisdom that each of us hold, that each human holds, and how these tools have really helped us in our own personal growth and also in our sobriety. And being able to weave in these expanded parts of our life into this podcast is just overall exciting. I think there's so much wisdom in each woman within this podcast, but also with each human. And what a beautiful space to be cultivating, to explore just that wisdom. So, yeah, we're going to dive right in.
Ruth led us in a lovely little breath work before we started, and she, at the very end, kind of asked us to touch on why we're showing up here tonight and what brings us into this space and what motivates us to keep going. And I, so cheesy, but my first thing is it always comes back to like I love these people and I want our community to succeed and be held and feel safe. And And then the second thing I thought of was that it's important for people to have skills to be able to regulate themselves and to know that it's like what like Ruth said, it's wisdom that we already hold inside our bodies, and that if we can access it and trust it and use it moment to moment, then we can learn from each other, from our experiences. And I think sharing that is part of what keeps me coming back, is that I know that within all of the stories and all of the things that I've experienced and gone through and then had to get out of my body somehow, that through all of that, there's wisdom and there is um, connection and vulnerability. And that's what makes us human. And that's what I think like drives that inner wisdom of being human, is like being able to express it and share it. And I know how powerful it's been for me as a person seeing music without alcohol specifically, that kind of usually creates like a veil of some sort where either it makes you feel um invincible, or like you can take more risks and you can kind of like you have like an extra layer, like it's a little protective kind of. And I think for me, taking that layer away, all of a sudden I was so much more sensitive to everything around me, and watching myself gain the skills to be able to regulate in those moments and know like at one point I had to, like, leaving was the safest option. I can't be in this space anymore. I need to go home and regulate there. That was how I handled it. And now it's sometimes that, like, yes, sometimes I do just need to go home. And other times I can just take a step outside and take a breath and regulate, or, maybe it's a bathroom stall or whatever. But just knowing that, like, we have those skills and the power to share that with other people is important. And that's what builds our community. And that's what keeps everybody feeling like they can share. So that's what we're doing here.
I love that. That's what we're doing here. Yes, you're right. It is what we're doing here. Um, I'm just happy to be back. I think like as I've been listening to both Ruth and Tiff talk, I'm realizing that we haven't been on a regular schedule. And I think for myself, like showing up with purpose in community has been a really big piece of my healing journey this past year because I felt like, how do I say that? In my job, I'm talking to people all day about how to help themselves, but I wasn't doing anything to like help myself. And having this container to bounce ideas off of and to know that I'm not alone has been a huge piece for me. And I think those of you that listen to this, you feel the same way. Um, and to just like we talk about like keep on going a lot, and this this idea of hmm, regulating ourselves to finding our inner wisdom, self-trust, respect of ourselves. This is what I think a lot of us who have walked through some journeys already have, and now trying to figure out how to use those in a way that is not just helping ourselves, but helping the friends around us is really important. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay. Um, and to cultivate friendship, like that's a big one. I think being able to have community and not just community, but have friends in community because I realized that I may have had community, but I didn't have strong roots in my community as I've changed and grown. And so that's where I think some of these tools have been really helpful to see for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. Once you said container, all of this, like, so much just started flooding into my entire system because I think this container itself is a tool for all of us and for so many of our listeners, right? Like, we've created this space for people to get vulnerable with themselves, to explore their own thoughts and ideas and patterns and also perpetuate growth and support. And I think so much of the music scene for me before was connection to the music and connection to community. And there was a point where I was like, what about something deeper? Like, where can I find the connection that does fuel my growth within this community? Like, yes, I had these incredibly fun times and these incredible people around me, but not all of them understood certain perspectives in my like everyday life. Like they were on a different path than me and still are, and that's totally fine. I love them for being those friends, but we've now created this container for not only ourselves to meet each other where we're at, but also for us to grow this community of like-minded individuals to go deeper, to have that support and that understanding of like, yes, we go to music, it's incredibly fun, and also we have this support outside of it. Because it can be challenging when you go to a show and you don't have that buffer up from that substance. That veil coming down creates this ultra sensitivity for me of just like everything, whether it be the music and the sensations in the room. Sometimes it's like hyper awareness of what other people are doing. It One of my favorite parts of it is like I feel the music now, and I'm also able to look around a room through this community and be like, oh, there's someone that I know that also is relating to something that I'm feeling. They're a safe space for me that I know I can walk up to and say like, hey, do you feel this way? Do you see what I'm seeing? Um, so it's just building community in a very intentional way has created fuel for my fire of personal growth. I think part of me getting a couple years into my sobriety, I almost felt like I plateaued. Like I was doing it, I was going through like the motions of sobriety, but I also knew that I had something more and wanted something more, but I wasn't exactly sure how to get there. And creating this space really allowed me to do that. I work on that sense of vulnerability and connection. And in those moments where it's challenging, I'm able to ask myself certain questions or reach out to someone and they're going to ask me the questions that I need to be asking myself, which has really brought in my tools of regulation, whether it's taking a moment to like breathe. For me, a huge thing lately has been finding my four senses because it drops me into the moment and into my body. So I'm like, what am I hearing right now? What am I smelling right now? What am I tasting right now? Like, what is simple things that I'm seeing? And it like hones my energy into my system because a lot of what I feel at a show isn't mine. And it's like there's so much energy around me, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming. And the moment I look for my own senses, I find my own body, and I can ask myself that question of like, what of this that I'm feeling is mine? Like, what of this is for me?
I love that. I relate to that a lot, that a lot of what I'm feeling at a show isn't mine. Um, and I also relate to like the hyper awareness of what everyone around me is doing. And that I think specifically those two things were what was most uncomfortable for me when I first started seeing shows sober. Um, and those two things now are still challenging. Like I still have a hard time not wanting to get involved in other people's problems. um, and I think it's really interesting just to like think back on processing and how much more aware of my own, like you're saying, aware of my own feelings I can find now. Whereas before it was so challenging and so overwhelming that, like I said, I would leave places. Um, and so that is just a testament to if anybody's in that moment right now in that space where it is too overwhelming and you do end up leaving a space, that we've been there and that you can progress past that. It's not going to be like this forever. And that there there is power in what you're doing right now in leaving, is recognizing that it's uncomfortable and that you don't like it and you don't want to be in a space where you might end up repeating a pattern that was harmful. And that is how you build the awareness even more. Like you're in a phase of getting to a space where it's going to be easier to know what's going on, but it's uncomfortable and it sucks right now. And I just, yeah, Ruth, you just made me think of like how many times I was like, I can't fucking do this. Um, and I'm thinking about, Emily, what you said about really intentionally creating your group of friends that are going to be there and that live through all of your journey, not just like the fun parts or the exciting parts or the time where everybody's all together. They're there for the messy parts and the, uncomfy stuff. I have been thinking a lot about just how people can play a certain role in your life and how just because they don't, that role might not carry on and exist forever, that it was still important and still beautiful and can still be held with positive feelings, even if it doesn't feel like a positive thing, just like nostalgic feeling of thinking about people from my past lives. I've been thinking about a lot. Sam um, pulled up my best friend from like 2012's in like Facebook and pulled out like all of these pictures I haven't seen in years, and I've just been like thinking about those people a lot. And in all of these pictures, I'm shit faced drunk, and a lot of them am holding alcohol and look intoxicated. And like watching, like looking at myself and seeing that, going through that was such an interesting thing. And I've been feeling very like, I don't know. I just have been like having a lot of flashbacks of that time of my life since looking at those pictures and thinking about like who I was as a person and the choices I was making. And um, I don't know. There's, I think, a lot of self searching that is happening where I'm starting to kind of question what was actually going on in my life that was making me want to act that way, and that I was normalizing behavior that I look at now and am like, okay, everybody in this picture is 20 years old and we're swimming in a pool with so much liquor around, like at night with no parents. And like, thinking about that now, 6 months pregnant, I'm like, uh, this isn't good. This isn't good or normal, and probably shouldn't have happened. So I don't know. It's just a really interesting thing to, I don't know, think about phases of life and how things do ebb and flow, and you end up finding the space that fits. And sometimes it takes a long time, and sometimes it comes out of nowhere, out of the blue, and walks up to you at a festival with a bag full of goodies and is now one of your best friends. So, it just, I don't know, life is weird. And you guys had me like mind blown thinking about how we all got to where we are right now. So, um, Howard's real mad. So I'm gonna mute myself.
Uh, um, I relate, Tiff, to like looking back at pictures. That's funny you brought that up because I haven't been on social media for almost a year now. Like I'll pop on when I get an email saying that someone's trying to get into my Instagram. And so then I'll check, which I think is just spam, things happening. But regardless, I start like I start scrolling for those few seconds and I start seeing photos of people, and I saw one of like a friend from back then. And it made me think about myself at those times. And I had written down earlier, I don't know who was talking, but this idea of like being afraid of what I really felt, like being afraid to like go inside. And so I would choose patterns of behavior that are no longer healthy for me, to kind of put fake euphoria or confidence or whatever it might be, because I was too afraid to like take a look inside. And my sister sent me a picture of me and an old boyfriend recently, and I have like the most disgusted look on my face because I had stopped drinking at this point and we were at a music festival and I had like water in my hand and I look so upset. And I'm like thinking about that, and I don't remember, I can't put a time and place to this photo, but I know the feeling of what I was having. And it was after this time of like partying my ass off to not drinking and going to music. And I remember I would just go stand there and be like, what the fuck am I doing here? What is going on? Why am I here? To like having to really go inward to kind of figure out like, oh, I used to go and party because I didn't want to explore what was inside. Now I'm not drinking and I'm getting to a place of like, I'm still not really happy, but I'm also afraid to go inward, to like continuously going on this journey and meeting people who were like, there's nothing wrong with you. You just have some like you just need some love and to see that there's there's nothing wrong with you. You just have to figure out what is right for you. But until you have people in your life that are willing to be there, it's hard to feel ready to go inward and figure out what you were really afraid of in the very beginning. And so, like, as you guys were talking, it's like this idea of, pulling that veil up now, being at a show, hypersensitive to all the other people around, but also for myself now being able to sit back and be like, what am I feel like? I'm kind of excited to see what I'm feeling now, whereas I used to be afraid of that. But it was only through tools. And there are times that I'm like, and enough's enough. I'm gonna go. I leave before the show's over, which if you would have told me I did that 5 years ago, I'd have been like, ha, no, I don't leave before a show's over. But sometimes now you have to because that's just what it is. Um, but this whole point for me talking right now is this idea of before I was afraid of knowing what was inside. Now I'm not as afraid. And there's a lot of wisdom and tools within that for myself to figure out how to regulate all those different emotions in real time, which is not always easy, but doable. But doable. Yeah.
There's so many layers of this. This is so good. As you're saying, like, to give yourself the space to look inside, of course, cheese comes in my head. And it's like, not only was it this moment to finally, like, look inside and explore those places for real, like, before I felt like I was doing them on psychedelics, and now going back to that, I honestly felt like most of the time I was exploring outside of myself, which was really awesome for that part of my life. But there came a point where it was like, no, I actually want to explore what's going on inside. But I didn't exactly know how to do that because everybody that I was talking to around me was kind of looking at me like I was absolutely fucking crazy to be having these thoughts and conversations on psychedelics. They're like, whoa, whoa, that's like too much. Like, we want to be light and airy. And for me, it was like, well, this is kind of fun. Like, this isn't fun for you. It just like wasn't clicking. But the more I started to look inside of myself, the more I was creating space for my soul, for like my intuition to really come through. And for me to be able to learn the lessons that innately inside of myself, I was always trying to like lead myself into. It's intriguing because 2 or 3 weeks ago, before my like weekly breathwork session, I was folding laundry and I had these wild flashbacks to a time when I was drinking. Like, stopped me dead in my tracks. And I was like, oh, okay, like full visual of it. I was immersed inside of those memories. And inside my brain, I was so overwhelmed by everything there was so much guilt and shame and just like I felt terrible. It took me back to that time and that space. And the one thing I wanted to do was not go to breath work that night. I was like, okay, I have 30 minutes before I breathe. Like, I really don't feel good. Like, now I don't feel good. I shouldn't go. And that is when I knew it was the time I needed to go the most. And instead of not going, I showed up and my facilitator, she looked at me, she's like, how are you feeling? I'm like, horrible. I'm feeling absolutely horrible. I feel like I am this person who I was now nearly 4 years ago. And not only am I like feeling that way somatically, but like it's visual. Like I'm seeing these patterns that I was behaving. And yeah, here I am. Now I'm going to show up. And once I started to breathe, the first thing I wanted to do was get rid of it. I'm like, let it go, let it go. I just want it to go away. I want these memories to go away. I'm not that person anymore. That did not work. Somatically, my system was like, the intensity was actually building. And I knew, like, okay, there's a point where I'm gonna have to try something different. And a big part for me was just like surrendering to the emotions that I was feeling. And like Tiff, like what is the lesson to be learned from this? Like what is this showing me through this lens that I currently have? And it turned into like this beautiful somatic experience to recognize that like guilt and shame that was still sitting there, and it felt like it was just a layer deeper than the last time that I had revisited those memories. And it's never fun, but there was so much knowledge coming through for me during the session. And ultimately, my body got this sense of peace. It got this sense of forgiveness and the sense of love that before it didn't have. You're just able to go a layer deeper. So it's beautiful for me to find the tools to be able to do that regulation and that inner work.
I think that's so beautifully put that you get to you get to go back and revisit those memories in order to like find new pieces in it, and also to be able to release new things that you couldn't let go of before. And I think that's so true for all of us. It reminds me a lot of um I think it's I think it's Buddhism, where they talk about the like spiral of things where you like catch yourself, and the next time you're like a little bit farther along, but you do kind of the same thing again and you go, oh shit, we're back here again. But maybe a little bit more lenient on yourself, or you give yourself a little more grace, or you catch it a little sooner, or whatever it is. And um, it made me think of like how sometimes you, or sometimes I will like wake up in the middle of the night and I'll have like a flashback of a conversation I had with somebody who I no longer even talk to, but I'm still thinking about like 13 years later, that thing I said that one time, And sometimes it's like, sometimes you just need that one last time where you're like, okay, I forgive myself, like sometimes you need to have the conscious, this isn't important anymore. I can let this one go. And I think it's so beautiful that you, unfortunately, had to experience that moment of like panic and guilt and shame, but so beautiful that it happened right before you gave yourself the opportunity to sit with it. Um, and if you wouldn't have shown up for yourself in that way, I can only imagine that it would have just festered until you did. And you might not have caught it as soon, and maybe you wouldn't have been able to release quite so much. So I just think that that's such a beautiful like reminder that usually when things get really uncomfortable and tough, you're right on the other side of like something feeling really, really like releasing and less hurtful, less bad, much better.
Less bad, more better. Um, it's kind of funny that this is what we're talking about because I've been in this spot like the last couple months of like, I know I need to sit and do the work, but I have such resistance because I know it's gonna get a little uncomfy. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's like, yes, okay, I hear you. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Um, but it's like I tell my clients this a lot, and I don't know if they understand because they're so early in sobriety. But when we are on healing journeys, doesn't matter from what, if we're on a healing journey and like I love to I think about it as like chapters. So like we have an end goal, but then we have chapters. And as we go to each new chapter, we are a little bit deeper in it. And as we read, we are able to open up those inner plots that are like in the chapters that like with the first time you read the book you don't get, but the second time or the third time you're like, oh shit, how did I not see that? but we have to continuously do it over and over again. Like I remember specifically, I don't know, it was probably like a year ago doing breathwork with Ruth, and something kept coming up that like we had already breathed about probably a year before, and I was like, where the fuck did this come from? And it was a forgiveness thing. I had thought I was like, I am so over that. I have forgiven myself. And then out of nowhere, I'm just like bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, where did that come from? But that was such a big pivotal moment for me where I was like, oh, I thought I did this. But really, this is a continuous journey. And as we grow, we are looking at things differently. And we do have to go deeper and deeper. And I think that's where all these tools come in, is that the first time around, that first tool might have worked, but the second time around, we might need to use a different tool because we're in a different place and that tool might be too superficial now. And we're ready for it. And yeah, and then I also forgot to mention earlier when we're talking about like a lot of energies and stuff like at shows and being hyper aware, a good tip is to like envision yourself in a little like bubble before going into a show and like I can see all of you and I can feel it a little bit, but you're not coming inside of my circle. And that's just like I do that. I try to envision myself like in a little like circle of love and light for myself so that I don't take on that because it is a lot when you're like, woo, there's a lot of people and a lot of energies and they're close to me and I'm starting to feel weird and I'm sober, but I feel like I'm not sober. That's when I have to like do my little double check of like, okay, little circle of love and light around me, like it's okay. And so I forgot to mention that, so I wanted to throw that little tip in there.
That is always a weird feeling when you're standing in a crowd and you're like, did I did I take something? Like, I feel a little high right. So I love that. Like being in a bubble. I do that a lot for myself when I go to like bars. And it's a good reminder to like do it before a show and create like a grounding pre-show routine because it just can feel like you get caught up in the wave of it all. Yeah, I remember your face during that breathwork session and you were talking to me and it was clicking to I was like almost seeing that like first time you were discussing it with me and this you talking about it. I was like, oh, you gotta love when you watch someone have that like epiphany moment of like, wow, this is the thing that I was talking about like over a year ago, and this is what I learned the first time, and now this is what I'm learning in this moment. And I think it creates this moment of like grace for our pain, right? Like it's so easy to get caught up in that shame spiral of like, why am I doing this again? And instead, in that moment, you were just in awe of your body and your remembering of like how to do that and like what you were doing for yourself, that there wasn't that blame and that shame. It just was like, how fucking cool is that? So cool to witness. Um, okay, so the safe people came up. And it's interesting because safety safe people has been coming up in my awareness because I feel like part of me has certain protectors up due to certain people that have like hurt me in the past, right? Like sometimes I go into a space with people I love and I find it challenging to like fully receive their energy and receive their love. And as I've been exploring that space more and more, two things came up for me. One, I was feeling like incredibly ungrounded in a different state before because anytime I would use a substance, I felt like it was ripping my roots out. So I didn't have this like stability to fully receive. And the other, I started to realize like I have this, I call it a filter. Like it's not necessarily a wall, but I feel this pressure to filter everybody's energy that's coming into me because that's the way I protect myself, right? Which beautiful thing that I do for myself. I love the fact that I do for that for myself. And also, I'm finding that I do it for people that I know have already earned my trust. That I also like deserve to feel their love fully, like in an expanded way. And again, I was doing breath work the other day, and at the end, all of my people, like all of my safe people, showed up in this room one by one, and they all like had their vibe. Like they had their outfits on, they had their thing. Like some of them had catchphrases and sayings. And in this moment, I saw these people in the room, and instead of saying just like, I love you, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm so sorry that I've been critical and judging you, even though you've shown me you can be safe. Then I also, in turn, said, I also forgive myself for doing this, but I want you all to know why. And in that moment of describing this, I saw this beautiful dome that was over like me and my safe people. Like everybody was so vivid. And outside of that dome was other people. There was different layers of this dome, right? Like there was next level, like people that, sometimes they can come into my safe space, sometimes they can't. Then there was like the people who are like have totally burned that bridge. And it was this beautiful moment where I felt like I was able to like let that filter go and realize like one, I feel stable enough in my own energy due to my sobriety to accept and be able to receive from these incredible people that have come into my life, and we've all been doing the work, right? Like we've all proven to each other like we're here to hold one another and like really lift each other up, which I think is one of the coolest fucking things in this life to realize like how many lifetimes in quotations we've each one of us has lived and supported each other through and still shown up in a safe capacity for one another.
I'm obsessed with that. And also clearly very emotional about you having to say you're sorry to all those people that you love and that love you. My heart just broke. I was like, no. But it's true. It made me think of, okay, I don't remember. I might have been reading this book about the yamas and niyamas in yoga. And I want to say I was reading about non-stealing, I think is the chapter I was reading about. And what really stuck out to me is the idea of like stealing someone else's joy that they're trying to give, or stealing someone else's time or energy. And one of the things that I read was about receiving gifts and receiving love, and how it's such a personal thing if you feel unworthy of receiving a gift or unworthy of receiving love or hesitant to let love in, that not only is that hindering yourself of being able to receive that, but you're taking that gift that that person is giving you of their time and energy and love, and you're cutting it off. And it made me think about how excited I get to give a gift to somebody I love. And um specifically, like my dad cannot accept gifts. He cannot do it. He always says he doesn't need anything, and then you get him something and he's like could do without it. Like it makes the act of giving the gift then feel tainted. I'm not exactly sure how to make that make sense, but and it made me think about how sad that makes me to know that he doesn't feel worthy enough of wanting a gift, of to be excited to receive and feel that love. And I think that's why it's breaking my heart so much to hear you say that you have the wall up and the veil up, and that it's been a challenge to let yourself feel loved, because I also have felt that way, and it's just like the saddest thing in the world, because we all deserve love. Like we're absolutely born worthy of love, and that doesn't change just because we fuck up or just because people hurt us. Experiences change us. And I love that your birthday breath work brought you to knowing that those people are there for you. Even if you have had the veil up, they're still there and they're still going to keep giving you that love. And now you have the space to accept it. And I'm excited to see how that feels different for you, like moving forward this year with all of your interactions, like in person with your people, and just how letting love in feels different now.
Worthiness and love. Mm, damn, this is a hard to this topic is like I'm like, why you guys tell me what I need to hear right now? Because that's what happens during these little chats. Um, I think forgiveness, self-love, and worthiness and being deserving for myself are the four most challenging pieces, and they are the things that I work on. And then there are also the things that I push away because they're the hardest to work on. Because there are layers that I haven't been able to uncover. Now doesn't mean that I can't because I am working on it. So like don't get it confused. Like we're working on it. It's not that I can't do it. Um, but those would be, I think that's we all have a root of some pain. And Gabor, I think that's how you say his name, Mate. He says, not asking the question why the addiction, but asking the question why the pain. And I go back to this a lot because in my little anxiety spiral, now that I am sober and there is no more chaos, I'm creating the chaos somewhere else because I'm not deserving of it. I'm unworthy of it. I have not forgiven myself, and I still don't have enough self-love. Even though I can pretend that I have those things. And I do, like I have them. They just need to be like I need to level up. Um and so like that's something that I think going back to our very purpose of like our why of showing up to this space is to work on those things. And like by having these chats, you guys are helping me and I hope that we are helping others by listening to this because if we're feeling this, I know I'm not the only one who feels this. And just like by talking through, it's like I feel motivated right now to be like, I'm gonna journal tonight. I haven't journaled in a long time, but I'm gonna journal tonight because that's what I need to do. And like that's a tool right there to regulate because I'm feeling a little bit of emotion happening. And I'm like, I'm not gonna go and smoke pot about it. I'm gonna go and journal because that's what I need to do. Or have a drink or whatever it might be. Like I'm no longer going towards a substance to make that anxiety feeling go away. Which I think is a really cool place to be. That I, through all these other tools and this process and this journey of healing, I no longer have to be afraid to start somewhere without having to put a substance or watch too much TV or get on social media or eat the entire bag of chips or whatever it might be that we're doing this unhealthy pattern that like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I just think that's really cool. So thanks. Thanks for inspiring me, you guys.
I also think that's really cool, and I'm super proud of you. I have been having a few of those like mental wins recently too, where I'm like, oh wait, that I just did that without even like I was gonna procrastinate, then I was like, no, I'm doing it right now. And I think it's really important to like acknowledge that out loud. So I think it's really cool that your brain immediately went to I want to journal instead of I want to do the other thing. So yay. Insert clapping noise.
Tiff, you started talking about gift giving, and it reminded me of two things, and both of them were for my wedding. And to witness you, you brought me a pair of your earrings that you wore for your wedding day to wear. And I was so excited, but also witnessing Tiff be so excited that I was excited made me that much more excited. And the other thing that I thought of was Tiff, just by being her, she brought a disco ball in a ceramic gator that literally became the center point of Dan and Mai's wedding photos. Also, very exciting to just like witness you being a gift you bring into a space, right? Like, just by being you, you were like, I'm gonna do these things for this person. And yeah, you are a beautiful gift giver, and you can like feel the intention behind what you're cultivating.
I like to tell people that one of my love languages is not receiving gifts, but giving gifts. Like I love giving gifts. It's so good.
Oh. And I do like Emily, I think this is a beautiful reminder, right? Like the more that we cultivate and create containers and conversations for ourselves that open up the door of like these are our struggles and this is what I'm doing about it, to me it creates that fuel for changing your perspective on that thing. Like knowing, hey, I'm not the only one who struggles through this. And also, this is another avenue that I can choose. Like having that tiff in the back of your head when you do something that is a small win, like call it out, say it out loud. Like knowing that you have the capability to create the fuel in your environment, we just have to create the intention in our lives to be receiving it. I think of so many things like an echo chamber. Like the more that we are in our own head or around certain people, that feedback is bouncing off of you. And the more we intentionally create spaces where that feedback that's bouncing to us is fueling the things that we're desiring in life, it makes doing those things a lot freaking easier. Which this is a great reminder for me also to create the intentional containers that fuel the things in life that bring me joy. There is a song that's what it says, do the things that bring me joy over and over again. It's one of my favorite things in the world because how special for us to be able to do the things that bring us joy in this life, have the echo chamber around us to remind us how to find those things, and ultimately like create the capacity to receive that joy in this human existence. So, yeah.
I feel like this is a good place to end. What do you guys think?
I think so.
Yeah.
Howard agrees. He's
Oh.
chilled out. He's taken in the vibes. He's no longer
It says we did it.
I think that was not too in depth on what we're actually going to get into here with Ripples. Like we have a lot of big hopes and dreams for where we're heading with this organization, but I also feel like just kind of getting to know each of us and our whys is a really important transition into this next phase. And we were kind of talking beforehand about like if you this is kind of your first entrance and your first time hearing us, that you have access to a bunch of episodes previous to this on the Degreased podcast where we go really in depth into our stories. And if you want to know more, there's a lot of information there. So, yay, here we are.
Yay. Yeah, I believe if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go to Spotify and it will just be episode one. That was like our Meet the Team. Um, so yeah,
Juicy.
it's juicy. It's juicy. We are juicy. We just bring the juice all of it.
Well, and I also just realized that this one is gonna have our faces as a video.
It
And
is.
Here we
that's
are.
hi.
We don't edit, clearly. Here we are.
We do not edit at all. We appreciate each and every one of you for showing up with us and for yourself. Ultimately, this will always be a safe space and a container for you to tune into, whether it be for support, for inspiration, or just for a space to take a deep breath and take a long exhale. We cannot wait to tune in next time.